All right. I see a lot of awesome people, some smiling faces, as well as our distinguished panel on today, still admitting some people here, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. All right. So first of all, it's just really good to see all of you, even those of y'all who may not have your faces on the screen. It's good to see names as well. Whether you are on Zoom or watching in YouTube land, I just want to wish all of y'all, first of all, a happy Black History Month. I don't know about you, but I hope to celebrate Black History year-round. So I am Dr. C. Emmanuel Little, Director of Training, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Big Brothers Big Sisters Metro ATL. And I go by he, him, his pronouns. And honestly, I'm just really excited to see all of y'all today to talk about Black male mentorship and its importance in our communities. And just honestly, this is just a great way to end Black History Month, right? And so as we talk about all this lifting and climbing, we have an awesome panel today of Black men from various walks of life coming to you, whether it's board members, entrepreneurs, we've got some government officials, corporate movers and shakers, all of whom they've agreed to be here to tell their story. And as we talk about these stories, one of the key narratives that I hear across the board with different mentoring organizations is really, it's all about the need for more men of color mentors, and Black men especially. And as we think about this, we know that everyone can mentor, right? But a lot of the kids on our waiting list in particular as a mentoring organization are Black boys. And so there's something to be said for the importance of representation, of a child being able to see themselves in a mentor, because in a lot of cases, and I'm sure we're going to get into it when we get into the discussion, but if you don't see it, it's really hard to be it. And given all the different deficits and cracks and fault lines in our society that so many of our kids can fall into simply by being born, then we as mentors have to kind of actively advocate for our youth. And so one of the things that we talk about a lot at Big Brothers Big Sisters is the importance of defending a child's potential. And that's why we're here, because somewhere along the line, someone helped guide the way for our brilliance. And so part of the goal today is to allow all of you the opportunity to start the process of becoming volunteers for our organization as we talk about these things. And so you will see me share links throughout the next hour or so as reminders to sign up. But before we jump into this program, I do want to share a brief video, because at the end of the day, it is about our youth. So this video that I'm going to share highlights the story of one of our mentees, one of our littles. His name is Aiden Moreland. He graduated last year and he was honored at a Big Brothers Big Sisters event. It's a really powerful story and an example of what's possible when we mentor. So I'm going to share my screen once again. Give me a minute. There we go.
Upstanding young men that are pure of heart are rare. It is a description of who Aiden is. It's just Aiden. He's gone through a lot in life. He's had a lot of challenges and has come out better than individuals that have had life really laid out for them.
Aiden was very temperamental as a kid. He was very smart. So the teachers would always say, he's bored. So he would get in trouble all the time in school. And I was like, I need help.
Jonathan, he's a great person. I met him when I was 5, and he automatically then I realized like he could be someone part of my life that I could really learn to like and look up to.
Seeing that connection, it was like, wow, he's like listening to him and having a conversation. He is definitely one that Aiden admires and respects and trusts. That meant a lot to me.
Big Brothers Big Sisters is a little different because you get to impact one-on-one. The impact's different when you are actually doing life with a human being. You see their joys, their pains, their challenges, their triumphs, and they see yours. I am thankful that I made the decision to take part in the program.
He lost his brother, his blood older brother, when he was about 11 years old. And then last year, he was diagnosed with a kidney issue where he had to have his kidney removed. It was terrifying because we did not know what was going to happen. We didn't know if kidney cancer. Jonathan would come back to me and say, Tanisha, when I tell you Aiden is good, Aiden is good. So Aiden really persevered throughout last year, and he was determined to make sure he had all straight A's, and he did.
He learned Japanese, literally at home. He started to learn Japanese and has plans to go to Japan. Who does that? Who's recovering from a major surgery and doing schoolwork and learning Japanese?
I plan to get my master's degree and study industrial and systems engineering. And then after that, my plan is to go to Japan soon to visit there because I'm in love with the country, the culture, and everything. I never thought I would receive an award like this in my life. It means a lot to me that people actually see potential in me. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for coming into my life and changing my life ultimately. And thank you for this award, for thinking that I would be a great recipient. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that to kind of ground us within the context of why we're here, right? And so that's what this is all about. And so now I really want to be quiet so I can allow someone else to talk. So I want to pass the mic to someone who is not only my boss, but someone who I look up to as a mentor as well, Mr. Kwame Johnson. He jokes a lot about how he's kind of the Big Brothers Big Sisters mascot, but he's so much more than that as well. And he's going to share a little bit more about our organization before getting us jump started with our discussion panel. Kwame, you can take it away.
Well, thank you, Dr. Emmanuel Little. And we were joking a little bit before everyone got on about Emmanuel using doctor in his title because it took a lot to get that, and just, honored to work alongside you. So you should definitely use it. And thank you, Dr. Little, for pulling this together. This is a very important topic to recruit more men to be a part of the program. And when you hear Aiden's story, this is definitely sell itself. I've been working on this type of work for 20 years now to help young people like Aiden get to the next level. So this is a special day. We are in Black History Month, a couple days left as it relates to the calendar. But like you said, we should celebrate it all year. But I'm honored to have some panelists who I think are already part of history, who are game changers, who are leaders in the community, who are already doing great work to support what we're doing, our mission of defending the potential of young people. And you're right, we serve thousands of young people all across Atlanta Metro. We match them with mentors. I'm assuming many are on the call now to really produce stories like Aiden and others where they're realizing their dream and reaching their full potential. So that's what this is all about. And I'm not going to do a lot of the talking tonight. I'm actually going to be having you hear from some of the leaders in our network who are doing this work, who are supporting us. And that's who it's really about tonight. So I want to start with having Commissioner Bradshaw, who is in DeKalb County, who's been a big supporter of ours, supporting us, and also Terry Brantley, who serves on our board, who is going to be on the panel today to talk about their experience with mentorship. And, these are two living legends, so we got to give them their flowers while they're here. These are folks I look up to who I believe are already in the history books. So to be a living legend, to be a mentor, to be a leader in the community, there must have been people that poured into you all to help you get to where you are, people that were your mentors. So I'll start with you, Commissioner Bradshaw, with that question as we open this up and, make sure everyone knows who you are as well. But, who were those mentors or mentor that helped you make history?
Well, thank you, Kwame, for that lead in. That's going to be hard to live up to at this point because I hardly consider myself to be a legend, but grateful to be included. And I'm honored to be here this evening in the company of these outstanding men. First, I'll describe myself briefly. So I start by describing myself as a PGK ×2. And PGK stands for preacher's grandkid as opposed to a preacher's kid. And I'll circle back to that in a second. I was fortunate to be a United States Army officer early in my career. I was a corporate sales executive for a time. I was an adjunct college professor for a time. Now I'm a DeKalb County Commissioner, and what I often say in some of my meetings is that public service is noble. Politics can get a little crazy at times, for sure, but public service is noble. And with regard to mentors, I referenced the PGK. I was fortunate that both of my grandfathers I see as mentors, both pastors, both very different men temperamentally. In fact, my father's father, Reverend Bradshaw, was named after the first Black heavyweight boxing champion of the world, Jack Johnson, Reverend Jack Johnson Bradshaw. And when I was a kid, you know, being able to go to a trustees board meeting that he's holding, I'm sitting there in the corner, keeping my mouth shut as I was told to do, but I got to see leadership in action at a young age. And it's instilled in me that being a leader is possible. There's a way to do it. And I'm really, really fortunate. And my mother's father, very similar. Like I said, they were temperamentally different, but I'm fortunate for their influence in my life. As a child and as a young man, I would say they were probably more impactful than my own father. But I'll talk about him as we move on. But yeah, I won't hog this. So that's me in a nutshell, and I'll give it back.
I guess it's my turn.
Go ahead, Terry. Go ahead. Got it. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Terry Brantley. I am a product of the city of Atlanta. I grew up on the south side of Atlanta. And the most important thing for me is that as far as mentorship is concerned, I was fortunate because I consider myself to have been mentored by my father. He was more than just a father to me. He was my teacher. He was the pattern that I wanted to follow when it came to my life, my lifestyle, my ambitions. And the reason I want to always emphasize how important it is because it gave me a star to look towards. And the relationship doesn't necessarily have to be physical as far as being a father to someone, but as a mentor, it made me feel that there was something I could look at in order to pattern the direction I wanted to go with my life. I grew up on the south side of Atlanta. My dad was an automobile dealer. We were home builders. We've done various businesses in the city of Atlanta. And I just have always felt that I could look to somebody as an example of who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be. And the reason I'm involved with this organization is because I know that many young men have that potential in them to be great, but sometimes they don't have that star to follow. And when I say star, I do not mean a singer or a rapper or a dancer. I mean someone who's shining bright in their community. And I mean shining amongst everybody, shining on their community. And I had the luxury of being able to do that and follow a gentleman until his passing. And the void that it created by him not being there, I could only imagine what it's like for a young man to grow up without someone to look towards and somebody to use as an example for themselves. So the importance of this mentoring and the Big Brothers organization has made me just feel that I have to continue to try to put an impact on young Black men of all races, to be honest about it. But specifically, there is a void in our community, and it is the relationship between fathers and sons and of mentors and stars to look towards. So that is why I'm here, and that's why I'm so happy to work with Kwame and the organization. It's because I'm a product of having mentorship in the sense of being a father doesn't just make you a mentor. There are many fathers that don't mentor their children, and many children that have mentors that don't have fathers. So with that, my name is Terry Brantley, and I'm very happy to be a part of this panel.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So I've got a question for a couple of our other panelists. So we have Marcus Hodge, who is an engineer with corporate environmental risk manager. I had to make sure I got the title right. CERM, we call it for short. We also have Mr. Stefan Avery, who is a very, really great young man when it comes to making moves in Atlanta. And he's a former little of our program as well. I want to allow both of them to introduce themselves as they talk about their answers to this question. So as we're thinking about mentorship, all of us on this panel have not only been mentored, but we are also mentors ourselves, either officially or unofficially, as it may be to others. And so a lot of times when people talk about mentorship, they forget that the positive impact works both ways for the mentee and the mentor. So Marcus and Stefan, can we talk about some unexpected ways that mentoring others has helped you?
Oh, that's a good one. Marcus, you want to go first? And I also would like for you to repeat the question so I can just, come straight off with it.
Yeah, I'll repeat the question. And if you can share, get on video, but if not, we completely understand.
I can. It just, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm actually getting my car fixed right now. And I'm in this quiet room.
Understood.
Yeah,
multitasking. See, I told you.
Right.
I love it.
Finance.
Well, we appreciate you, man. But I'll go ahead and repeat. I'll go ahead and repeat the question for you. So I know it was kind of a long one. So really, the crux of it is, can you talk about some unexpected ways that mentoring others has helped you?
Mentoring others and how it has helped me. I can say that. Yeah, I definitely can. My mentor, Kamal, he was my big, and until I got out of the program, I started watching his kids, and I became a mentor to his entire family in a sense. But looking over his kids and kind of seeing like how he treated me is kind of a understanding there. Like I know what to do, to know what to talk about. And even though I'm not in a household, I feel like when I come in, it's exactly the same. Like if it was just me and him, hanging out by ourselves. But the impact that he has on me is more along the lines of I get to continue what was taught. So I get to continue that in a nature of let me first do it in a small setting, with the people that I mean, they're his father. So I spent most of my time with him. So I have in a sense. So that alone was like a test run. And then outside of this, I've been at my old high school, I used to play lacrosse, and I'm now a coach for lacrosse now. And oh, that's awesome. That's your daughter. Not the little, yeah, I got you. But yeah, now I coach lacrosse at my old high school, and I'm able to use some of the techniques that Kamal has used when we were growing up. But I can say it impacted me in the way of I want to always be able to give more and give back, since I'm in a comfortable position to where everybody's helped me. So that's the impact it's had on me, and moving forward, I plan to show it.
That's awesome. And Dr. Little, he knew what he was doing when he paired us together for this question, because I'm Marcus Hodge, but it says environmental specialist right here, but I'm now a staff engineer with corporate environmental risk management. And I am a product of DeKalb County. I'm also have been an athlete my whole life. I played Division I baseball. And having that full circle moment where now I am the head coach of my 16U baseball team with South DeKalb Tribe. Being a mentor, the things that I'm able to learn from the young men that I'm essentially responsible for and that look up to me, just gives me a heightened level of accountability for myself and my actions. So it hits a little bit harder to home when you have to make tough decisions, and sometimes when you fail to make the right decisions. So that level of accountability that you have from having someone look up to you is something that I feel like uplifts me and is able to help me uplift my community. Aside from that, you learn how to communicate, and you learn how to pour into the younger people that are coming up behind you. And so having that humility and that level of accountability are two major things that I've taken from being able to be in the position that I'm in now.
I love it. And man, thanks, Marcus, for being a part of this, and love what you're doing in your hometown, your home where you grew up. And this is all about DeKalb, but this is also about just what we can do across this country together, because we got folks represented throughout. And really want to now talk about, something that kind of Terry talked a little bit about is, mentorship in our own community and the importance of it. And I know for me, a guy named Bob Woodson, when I first got my first job out of college, he really gave me the confidence I needed to be comfortable in my own skin. And I think that was unique to his experience of being someone that looked like me and me seeing myself in him. My mentor in high school was my track coach. He was a white guy, and he helped me when I was in the toughest part of my life in jail. He was there, so he played a different role. But as it relates to just Black men in the community and stepping up to be mentors, why is that so important and unique? And I'll start with Commissioner Bradshaw. Why do you think that's as important as it is today?
Well, first of all, before I answer that, Marcus, when you have a chance, say hi to Al Edwards for me at CERM. He's a good friend of mine and somebody I respect greatly. So
Yes, sir, will do.
Please pass that along. To your question, Kwame, we're up against history, American history. All right, and juxtaposed American history with current events. Over the course of history, Black men have been put upon. That's putting it very, very, very mildly. And it still happens today. It still happens today when we hear about something on the news about some incident with law enforcement. A lot of times it's a Black man that's been on the receiving end of that situation, not in a good way. So it is imperative for us to show our boys something other than what's reported on the news. They need to see that. They need to see how we navigate in the world, how we cope with whatever slights, injustices that might befall us, and how we deal with it and keep moving forward. It's not about being perfect, because none of us are perfect, but it is about being consistent and being a presence in their lives consistently, so they have a path that has been charted for them, so the way for them is a little bit easier than it was for us.
Appreciate that. Terry?
Well, of course, and shout out to Al Edwards again. That's my fraternity brother as well as good friend. All right. It just goes without saying that it's absolutely critical in our neighborhoods, in our streets, in our businesses, in our social environments, that each one must teach one. And without a guide, without a method, without seeing the pathways to success, we're all destined to just go around in circles. And unfortunately, history will repeat itself. And we just have to find our ways through navigating these communities and these obstacles that are obviously sometimes put in front of us, and sometimes we might create some of our own obstacles. And finding a path and a way out is always done through leadership. And without leadership, mentorship doesn't work. And I just think that we all have to take our part and step out there and make sure that the young men understand the way up. And what is it? Train a child up so that they may grow. And mentorship is the key to doing that. It speaks for itself. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to wait till you're done and
Yes,
ask
sir.
Kwame if I could make one more brief.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
So I'll share this brief anecdote. I mentioned earlier about the importance of my grandfathers, and at a stage of my life, my dad wasn't as present. We're good now. I mean, I'm 59, he's 84. We're good now, but I shared I was a young Army officer. I went on active duty in 1986. Now, when people walk into my county commission office, I keep a photo right up front where people can see it right when they walk in. It's a photo of Great Lakes Naval Station, graduating class, 1957. That's 6 years before I was born. And if you look at that picture, you see about 60 guys pictured in that class. One of them Black. And I asked, and it's a beautiful black and white picture, and people are drawn to it. And when they start looking at it, I ask everybody a test question. Which one of those guys do you think is my father? Now, I went on active duty in 86. In a graduating class of 80 from Armor Officers Basic Course, there are at least 20 of us African-American officers. I don't know what my dad put up with in 1957. I don't know how many other black guys started that class, but at the end, he was there. And as I've gotten older and gone through some things in my life, I look at him a different way. And my point is, we all go through stuff, and it's important to have some reverence for what's taken place before us. Whatever hard times we might have, we're not the first to encounter. And that picture reminds me of that. Whatever hard times I've had during my military days, during my corporate days, it probably pales in the comparison to what he put up with in 1957. And I will just leave it at that.
Commissioner, thank you for sharing that story. Very special. And that actually reminds me, we got some different generations represented on this call, So I'm going to go over to Marcus and Stefan and see, what's your perspective on Black men stepping up to be mentors, and why is it more important now than ever for us to do that? I'll start with Marcus, then Stefan.
Yes, for sure. I just know for me personally, like it was mentioned earlier, if you don't see it, you don't know how attainable it is. And so to have somebody that you can look at and say, hey, they've done this, I can do this, or they've been through this and overcome this obstacle or this adversity, it's going to be okay. And just that feeling of it's going to be okay, especially in the times that we're in today, is something that is very important, because the state of everybody's mental right now, we don't know what the next person is thinking or what they're going through. And so to have somebody to look up to is so important, and to have somebody to lean on and tell you that everything's going to be all right, no matter what it is that you're going through, is something that is invaluable in today's society. And it's so important for us to pour that into the ones that see themselves in us, for sure.
Stefan, what do you think? Stefan might be underneath the hood of the car doing some work, man. I'm gonna toss it back to you, Dr. Little.
All right. There's a lot of directions that as I'm listening to people, talk about their stories and whatnot, I realized I also didn't share, my mentorship story. I mean, obviously, working here for Big Brothers Big Sisters has been a big part of that. But one of the stories that I share all the time that I think a lot of these guys can also relate to is the idea that it's great for a mentor to have that desire, right? But in many cases, really in all cases, mentorship only works if the mentee is willing to be poured into, right? And I think about, I wouldn't be doctor if I didn't have, certain mentors in my life. And I tell a story a lot about growing up, really a really shy person, and being matched with a brother who is, a couple of decades older than me, but was at a high level in administrative leadership at the university that I attended in good old Milledgeville, Georgia. And it took me a couple of years to really be able to open up and receive the mentorship that he was trying to pour into me. I'm talking about literally, even though I knew him, he helped recruit me to the school, I would literally duck behind the bushes when I saw him. That's how much I was trying to avoid any type of accountability conversation or whatever it was. But a light bulb went off at some point where I was like, you know what? Number one, there aren't a whole lot of brothers that look like me on this college campus. And number two, this is a guy who has been on the journey that I'm trying to go on, right? So why don't I take advantage of that opportunity to chat with him and to allow him to impart his wisdom? And I said all that to say, that was, goodness, almost 20 years ago. But now we still have that strong relationship. He's a president at HBCU right now, and I try to pay that forward. And so I said all that to say, in my Big Brothers Big Sisters folks, I like to think in quotes. And so the quote that I was thinking about as I was listening to people is, We are all here for a reason on a particular path. You don't need a curriculum to know that you are a part of the map. And that is something that, to me, speaks to this whole idea of things being meant to be. And there are a lot of opportunities that kind of allow themselves for mentorship, but at the same time, it takes equal effort for the mentee to see to that, right? Serendipity is great, but you still have to have the effort. And so I guess, I do want to make sure we talk to one of the other panelists who I think was here, Frankie Atwater, CEO of the DeKalb Chamber of Commerce. Frankie, hopefully you're still here. I want to hear from you in terms of and your wealth of knowledge and experience. And then, of course, the other panelists are welcome to jump in as well. When you think about mentorship and also being mentored, what did it take for you as someone being poured into to actually have the confidence and the bravery to allow someone to mentor you? And please feel free to share a bit about yourself as well, Mr. Atwater.
Well, first of all, good evening, and I apologize for not being on screen. We moved our office today. We're in the final stages of it, and I was not sure it was going to last that long, but I'm actually driving, so I didn't want to miss this. So I said, well, if I get on here, I'm not on screen, at least I can hear some of the comments and points and things like that. So I truly apologize for not being on screen. But as I was a young man growing up in Illinois. I call myself a community little, and I say that for a reason. It's because I was a young man. I grew up. My dad was a hard worker, great role model for me. I was one of these young guys, like many of our young ones now, just trying to find direction. Where are we going to do in life? What am I going to do? Other than when you're in high school, you just really don't know unless you have someone to give you some kind of guidance. So I had several what I call bigs take me under their wing and give me some direction and expose me to leadership and things like that, generally you wouldn't see young ones being exposed to just because their parents are busy and people are doing so much. But they exposed me to a lot of things in life at a young age, things to expect, things being a young Black man, what to expect, how to navigate and deal with situations that come my way, and understand that I do bring value. And no matter what may happen in life, I bring value. And so they instilled a lot of that in me. And with that being said, it allowed me to be where I'm at today. Now I have a privilege to, serve DeKalb County as the president and CEO of the DeKalb Chamber of Commerce. An opportunity where being a visionary and having a chance to put my vision in play and help the county as a whole, and it's working. And I'll say this: Commissioner Bradshaw has been a great supporter of the chamber, continue to be. He sees the vision, with some of the others, but he's really been active in being behind that vision. Excuse me, and I truly appreciate it. So that's a little bit on me. I mean, it was great. I was a former athlete, world-class athlete, gold medalist, and a lot of that came about through just being a mentee to the community. Everyone took interest in me, and I accepted that. I grew up in the days back when the breakdancing was going on. We had our cardboard out doing all our little things, and we didn't have much that we figured we could do. But when someone takes you under their wing and really show you the true things about life, you don't forget it, and you find ways to implement that in life. So thanks, Dr. Little.
Thank you, Mr. Atwater. I've got another question, Kwame. I don't want to cut in on your time here, but just kind of a critical thinking question for really any of our panelists to answer. And one thing I think Kwame said this a lot as well. I want y'all to really imagine if every child had a mentor, right? So imagine if every child had a mentor, how would society look different to you? I'm going to repeat that. If every child had a mentor, how would society look different? Well, that's a tough essay question there.
Well, I'll take a stab at it. If every child, if there was a mentor, I would say the participation in gangs would really diminish. And the reason being is that a lot of kids gravitate that direction because they're they feel these individuals care about them. And therefore, as a young person, you want to be loved. You're going to be around someone that cares. As a mentor, more mentors you have that are with kids, the less chances they have to go in a different direction. The better it is for society, because those brains that they bring and all the productivity and what they can bring to the table for society, we'll have a totally different world now if we have more mentors around these young ones. And they don't have to spend, as you know, every waking moment with them, but someone that they can go to, talk to, and keep them out of these areas that are pulling them away from having a productive life.
Oh, that was great, Frankie, and thanks for the kind words earlier. I'll take a stab at it. I think big programs like this one, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Metro Atlanta, have created a construct. And you just look at the statistics, right? If I'm quoting the statistics right, Kwame, you can tell me if I'm wrong or off, but about 99% of the participants graduate from high school. 98% avoid interface with the juvenile justice system. I mean, those are extraordinarily compelling statistics. If you can start your productive life without having ever had to interface with the justice system, the criminal justice system, I think that's a massive, massive step forward. So I think the world would be different because we have a lot fewer men that are directionless. And directionless is the path to nowhere good.
Thank you for that. Hey, the rest of our brothers want to chime in on the panel? And I'll repeat the question one more time. Imagine if every child had a mentor, how would society look different to you?
I'll go ahead and I'll interject here briefly. It's a pretty short answer. I just think we would see a little bit more compassion and love in society, opposed to the amount of just senseless crime that we encounter on a daily basis. Just having that person that you can lean on, like I said earlier, just to reiterate, it just it does something to uplift the spirit and uplift the soul. It makes you want to do better, and it just gives you hope. And if we have more hope and more love in our society, there's no telling the endless bounds that we can just accomplish as a society and as a culture, for one. So I just think we would see more love and there would be more hope.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I want to piggyback, Marcus. There'll be a lot more hope. And I think that society would definitely be safer in a sense. Like, I feel like there's a lot of crime. Not all crime has to do with anything with males or you know, colored males in that aspect. I just think that we will be a lot more caring and loving. Everyone will look out for each other, and we will almost be like a utopia. So, like, I know that's tough to say, but everybody would be great in a sense. So whatever field or you know, designated of work, whatever they want to do, I just think we'll see a lot of peace.
I love that. Thank y'all. And one thing I also want to share, you know, a lot of times when we talk about mentorship, or when the world talks about mentorship, rather, a lot of times it's used via this, what they call a deficit-based lens, where the assumption is that there's automatically something wrong with our kids in our communities. But what we take on, and I think any of the organizations represented can identify with this, is what's called an anti-deficit lens, where we know that it's not our kids that needs fixing, it's the society that they're inhabiting, it's the schools, it's, you know, the political systems, it's you know, the judicial systems. All those things are the areas that have deficits and things wrong with them. So if we are operating from that assumption, our mentorship takes on a little bit of a different energy, because we're not trying to fix these kids. We are trying to, as we say at Big Brothers Big Sisters, defend their potential, because we know there are all these threats, all these pitfalls to that potential. And so it's about mentorship. Kind of, it takes on the idea of helping them navigate those challenges instead of trying to fix you. No, you're already brilliant. I'm trying to make sure the rest of the world doesn't put a damper on that brilliance. And so I think that's a really important piece when we're talking about mentorship, especially of Black males, that we make sure we remember that also. All right, last question for the panel, unless Kwame had one. And this again, for anyone here, what's one thing that you would tell really just any brother or really anybody out here about why they should seriously consider mentoring someone?
I'll take a swing at it first. First of all, to the commentary that the young men made, Stefan and Marcus, couldn't agree more. I gave a presentation on leadership the other night, and one of the leadership principles that I underscore is compassion. You show compassion. When compassion is shown toward you, you're more inclined to show compassion toward others. So I really appreciate what y'all said in that vein, and I wholeheartedly endorse that, as we say in politics. And just to answer Dr. Little's question, you get to impact the future. That's how I'd answer that. You get to have a positive impact on the future by being a mentor.
Anyone else? Thank you for that.
And one of the obvious benefits is that hopefully, if we all live to see it, you get to see that impact. The ability to actually have a tangible result and something that you can, things tend to grow that you see grow. And if you watch a garden, you tend to want to work the garden. And I think as we all become mentors, it has an effect. It's contagious. I'll just say it's contagious. Mentorship is contagious. And it happens in the fraternity world, it happens in the sorority world. But the ability to see the offspring of your offspring is a very important aspect of mentorship. As the gentleman, we've got the offspring of offspring and mentorship on this call as we speak. It's just contagious. And I just believe that that's what's most important, is the ability for it to grow by just each one teaching one. That's my commentary about it.
No, I totally agree. And, we're going to definitely push now for folks who want to sign up, who are not signed up, to be a big brother, big sister in the program. I know Emmanuel's going to be posting that in the chat and also on the YouTube channel, because that's what it's all about. You hear from folks who are involved in our work, who've come through our program, who are leaning into mentorship in different types of ways. And I agree. I think our country would be a much different place. I talk quite a bit about solving poverty. And when I say that, I don't mean eliminate poverty. I mean solve poverty. If you're born in poverty in Atlanta, you got a 10% chance to make it out. That should not be the case. And I think if everyone subscribed to mentorship, we would help solve poverty. We would have young people graduate high school, which is one of the number one indicators for upward mobility. Young people reaching their full potential and at the end of the day, solving poverty and all the bad things that come out of it that plague society, if we could really get in front of this. And what's cool about mentorship is something that everybody can do. This is not required a college degree or some, fancy title. This is something we all can do who care about kids and want to help the next generation. So, Dr. Little, I don't know if you want to open it up for questions now or how you want to roll with it, but this has just been an amazing panel. Like Commissioner Bradshaw, Terry, Marcus, Stefan, thank you all. Frankie, we appreciate you all being a part of this. And this is what it's going to take, all of us leaning in to really make the whole Atlanta Metro the best place to live.
Yeah, thank you, Kwame. I really appreciate that. And, I just want to underline that point of, it really doesn't take a lot. Like it's really just about being there for a youth, or in many cases, someone who grows up to be an adult and you're still mentoring them, right? And so I dropped the link in the chat a few times to sign up to volunteer, and I shared there that we definitely want as many people as possible to join us in our mission to defend the potential of our youth. And that's anybody, but especially for the purposes of events like this, we are in particular looking for our Black men to be a part of this journey as well, because we know how important that is. And so what I want to do now is open up the floor for a Q&A, as I said earlier, to start this event. So we've got some great panelists here who've offered their stories and poured their souls out in terms of what mentorship means to them. So I do want to allow our audience members to share whatever questions they may have of our panelists. So if you do have a question, you can go ahead and mute yourself, or if you can't speak, I'll be trying to monitor the chat as well. We'll allow for about 10 minutes for that. And of course, panelists, if y'all have questions for each other or what have you, this is a good time for that too, but we want to make sure we keep the conversation going. So I'll be quiet and allow folks to unmute themselves.
I have a question. I have a question to Marcus. Just curious what position you played when you played baseball.
Well, currently, I play around third base, and I pitch a little bit. In college, I played third, first, coming out of high school. I played shortstop. I've also done some catching, so I've been all over the diamond.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am a Yankees fan, but the Braves are a close second for me. So shouts out to the home team.
Yes,
Spring
sir.
training just started, so looking forward to some good things from some of those guys that I know that are playing in the league this year.
All right, and I won't belabor, but so what do you think of the pitch clock?
I'm not a fan of it. I'm a little old school. I'm just going to be honest. I think it's a little excessive, but it seemed to speed up the game. The guys at the minor league level seem to like it, so we'll see how that goes. But to answer your question, no, I'm not necessarily a fan of it.
Understood.
And let me say this about Marcus, since you asked kind of what athletics he was involved in. Marcus, since we talk about mentorship, part of mentorship is coaching, right? Marcus is an amazing coach. So we did a Battle of the Bigs event with his organization probably last June, July, August, I think it was. And
August.
yeah, and we were, so somehow I ended up coaching a group of our littles, and then Marcus was the opposing team's coach. And yeah, I'll be real with you, I talked a good game, but Marcus's team, they blew us out. So shout out to you for that.
Thank you for that. It was, like you said, it was a great game. The kids had a great time. It was a beautiful event. I look forward to us getting together again this year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. What other questions does anyone have of our panel or panelists to each other? Anything goes.
I have a question to the attendees. If anybody can kind of give us what your perceptions of what mentorship and the Big Brothers organization is about prior to you getting on this conversation, and what you may have gotten about it, or what have you found out about what we do that leads you to possibly be interested or influence someone else to join or get involved with the organization. We need feedback from individuals, because a lot of people misunderstand what it is that we do, and a lot of people have questions about what we do. And this is a good opportunity for us to be a little bit more clear about the organization. So, you know, I see a lot of muted microphones, and I think the two-way feedback is very important. And for us to do a lot of speaking is cool, but it just makes me wonder, I'm curious as to your interest in the organization and what we may be able to do to encourage others from your perspective. For those that are not involved or that you know are not involved, what can we do to encourage participation from Bigs? Oh, they're lighting up. Okay, cool. Okay, all right.
Well, I'm Joy. I work for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I'm a grant writer. So I know the impact of mentoring so well because of the storytelling that I do. And I'm so moved to hear you all speak so emotionally about mentoring, and to put faces to names and to put faces to the concept of mentoring. So I think that's powerful. And the more that we could get that out into the community, the better. And I also think the deeper the storytelling, the better. I was a first generation college student in my own family, and I came from a family of pretty deep poverty, and I didn't have a mentor. I learned to mentor myself, and I now have children, and they have a mentor. They have a really, really strong advocate in me, and I have pulled it out, you know, for them. So I didn't even really understand the impact it could have had on my own life if I had had an adult, a caring adult, guiding me along. And I think the more we can hear, the public can hear specific stories from individuals about the impact it has had on their lives, and we connect those stories to people like you, the better off it will be. We will all be.
Thank you for that, Joy. And we hear a lot about the power of storytelling when it comes to pushing for mentorship, and that's one of the things that struck me when I first joined this organization. Is when I listened to Kwame talk about his story and how it kind of got him to where he is now. I mean, we can show all statistics and everything, yada yada yada, but at the end of the day, it's the stories that reach people. And so that's why I appreciate you being vulnerable here, and I appreciate the rest of this panel being able to be transparent about what it took for us to get from point A to point B to point Z, and so on and so forth as well. So any other feedback, questions, or answers to Terry's question, rather?
Dr. Little, can I jump in here very quickly? So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ray Nunez. This Zoom call, this broadcast is making into international waters. I'm over in Mexico right now, but I'm representing the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Rhode Island. So very quickly, I'll echo everything Joy said. It's storytelling. It's getting these powerful messages out, but it's doing this and meeting folks where they're already at. Right. When I was living in Rhode Island, I was a big fan of trying to replicate this format, but I knew that the guys that I needed to be in the room, specifically men of color, they weren't showing up to the Zoom broadcasts. We would get a lot of folks who were, who had the time, who were maybe retirees. They're maybe older white men who were in a phase of their life where they were able to, one, be financially stable enough, have the freedom and the flexibility to donate time, and who were aware because of our marketing already going to them. So it's about bringing the show to the road, right? Let's set up camp in a barbershop and have this conversation. Let's set up camp, in a park where folks are already convening. That's what I think we could do to encourage people, because there's this, I wouldn't even call it a stigma. I think it's just a misunderstanding of what the commitment looks like. I know for me, I didn't have any man of color in my life growing up to show me what it's like to be an entrepreneur or any of these things, right? So when I first met these people in these positions that I wanted to be in, it was a lot of just like demystifying that was possible, and it was a lot of just natural conversations around how they got there. You just said it, Dr. Little, about going to point A to point B to point Z, right? It's communicating all that very clearly. I know that was a long-winded way of saying it's more storytelling. It's meeting people where they're at and making it as real as possible, right? This is mentorship is gritty, it's raw, it's emotional, it's an investment mutually, but it's so necessary.
Thank you for that, Ray. That's really important. And we talk a lot in our org about what that means to kind of meet people where they are. And with us, as we're trying to focus more on recruiting men of color in general, that's one of the things we're exploring this year. It's like things like this are great, but we've also got events at churches and other areas in the community as well as we continue to grow. And so it's important for us to, as the younger people say, keep that same energy, and make sure that we are doing what we can to meet people where they are and actually be in the community, in the streets and the suites, so to speak. So good, thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments for anything they want to share, whether it's panelists or audience members as well?
Yes, how you doing? My name is Deontay Pickett. And I want to apologize. I am driving. I found out about this meeting through checking my email. I'm a firefighter with DeKalb County. I've been with DeKalb County going on 5 years. And I just happened to check my email and I seen this. And I'm definitely considering becoming a mentor because of my pastor, Overseer Thomas Anthony Pulliam Sr. about making a difference on the next generation. But I also want to piggyback with Ms. Joy, the transparency that is necessary, and the deepness of the stories makes a difference on the relativity and reaching each other. And also, like Mr. Nunez said, going out to them and actually seeing each other makes a difference. I love the Zoom aspect and coming together and making this happen. But the next generation needs to see us, and even wanting to grab other mentors. The other mentors need to be seen, and actually going to the different communities where it's necessary, because I think if you have mentors willing to travel, it will show their dedication and their accountability. I think a county is big on mentorship, and even considering on being a mentorship or a mentor. But no, I definitely look forward to it, and I definitely thank you for having this panel and this discussion. It's definitely necessary for the next generation, because we see this generation is different. This generation is different. They have whole different avenues. They have their access to everything is, and their understanding, their age of understanding is different from ours. So we have to reach them differently. We have to go about them differently. So I appreciate y'all, from Dr. Emmanuel all the way down to Mr. Bradshaw. I appreciate the whole panel.
Wow, thank you for that, Deontay. And that's a really important piece of this when you're talking about this current generation and understanding that mentorship from 50 years ago, that model may not work for today's generation, right? So I appreciate you sharing that comment, and for being able to multitask while you're driving as well. But that's something we definitely gotta keep in the back of our minds as we continue along this path. It's already 7 o'clock, y'all. I do want to be mindful of time. I do want to make sure, Kwame, you are very capable CEO. If there's anything you wanted to share for the good of the group before we end things officially. And then I want to also emphasize this too. This is an ongoing convo, right? This isn't the first time we're going to do this. This isn't the last time we're going to do things like this. And so you can expect some follow-up from us on some next steps and opportunities, just in case you missed the link that I kept dropping in the chat, but also just some more information as well that may be helpful for you. And hopefully I'll say the same thing here that I say in a lot of our trainings. I don't want what we said here to stay here. And so if you were here and you were inspired by something, and there was somebody that wasn't here that you think would be great to be a part of our organization as far as mentorship, please feel free to share the love and spread the word about what we're trying to do. I think that's really important. And I see some people putting in the chat here, connecting with Leadership DeKalb as well. People dropping some links. Yeah, please go ahead and drop your links in the chat also. With that, I'll leave it to Kwame if he has any last things he wants to say.
No, Dr. Little, I think you did it. This was an amazing conversation. Appreciate everybody for participating. Thank you to all of our panelists. We can't do this without you all. Thank you to Commissioner Bradshaw for leading the 50 Men to Mentor Challenge in DeKalb. And this has really been a huge, huge win for us. Terry, appreciate you, Marcus and Stefan. This was great. And we'll definitely be in touch. And if you have ideas, connections, just shoot them over to us. Me and Emmanuel will follow up.
Yeah, and thank you again to the panel as well. Thank you for the audience. This is our first time doing this. We're really excited to continue going deeper into our recruitment and being more intentional in the community as well. But yeah, with all that, just stay tuned for more. And I hope that something said here inspires y'all, whether you are in the Zoom or in the YouTube as well with the live streaming also. And thank you to all of our staff who helped make this possible. But outside of that, look, enjoy your evening, and y'all have a great remainder of your week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Good night, everybody.